Dr Phillipa Whitford.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The SNP Group supports all 5 Lords' amendments and will therefore be voting against the Government. With regards to a declaratory system, the Secretary of State keeps saying it will make it more confusing, but it makes it a registration rather than an application. And the difference is one is guaranteed to have acceptance. And that's what doesn't exist at the moment. The Government says between 85 and 90% of EU citizens or EEA citizens will get status, settled status, quite easily. But that's 300 to 450,000 people who won't. And if you actually look at those who are struggling, it's particularly people with career breaks, caring responsibilities, and that means it's particularly affecting women. And there's been no sign of an equality impact statement, and there simply should. What's been overlooked is the elderly and frail who've literally been here for decades and decades, maybe even people in care homes or with dementia. And it is wrong to even have the slightest threat hanging over such people who've spent their whole lives here. The physical document is also really important, as has been explained by other members, with regards to dealing with landlords and employers, and particularly because internet is not always accessible. And one of the issues, the Secretary of State said, oh, they can download the email that they are sent that explains their status. It explicitly says this email is not proof of status. It does not provide a document, even if you print it. And I'm sorry, after Windrush, EEA citizens and indeed others don't trust the Home Office not to lose, delete or change their records. Amendments 2 and 3 that relate to Clause 26 is to remove the delegated power of ministers to decide which courts and which test is used to set aside ECJ judgments. This steps away from the principle of precedence. It raises concerns about judicial independence. The Government put in their manifesto that they wanted to rebalance power between the Executive, Parliament and the courts. And this starts in this bill, and we should be very wary of it. Amendment 4 regarding Lord Dubb's amendments to restate the Government commitment to unaccompanied child refugees. Removing this was probably the things that MPs across all sides of the House were most shocked about and felt that the Government simply couldn't justify. At the end of transition, the UK will be outside the Dublin system, and therefore transferring an application for refugee status from one country to another will disappear. The problem is paragraph 319X of immigration rules is all about the cost of a child coming. It's all about the ability to accommodate them. It absolutely pays no attention whatsoever to what is best for the child. That's what the Dublin system does. And all this bill or this original clause did was say that the Government had to negotiate. And therefore there is absolutely nothing in that that the Government should be objecting to. With regards Clause 38 and Amendment 5, absolutely it is unprecedented territory that all 3 devolved parliaments, so this is not just governments, this is not people who have the same agenda, but parliaments have voted against giving legislative consent. And this Government ignores that at their peril. Because people do feel that devolution is threatened after 20 years. Not just by this bill, but also by the former changes. Devolution is precious to people, even people who don't support independence. And the Government riding roughshod over it really sends a message of disrespect. The Prime Minister likes to define himself also as the Minister of the Union. You cannot maintain a relationship or a marriage through force. It has to be based on respect. And if all of this leads to the crumbling of the precious union, he will only have himself to blame.
Mark Harper.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.